The Senate Committee on Economic and Workforce Development is being called to order. To give members more time to arrive, we're going to go ahead and begin a subcommittee. The first bill that we will be hearing will be Senate Bill 1646. Senator Henderson, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. For the record, State Senator Mike Henderson from the 3rd Senatorial District, here to present Senate Bill 1646. And I will tell you before I begin, I will probably step out into this because I've got to head to another committee at that point. But let me present it. The City of Branson approached me about filing this legislation as the Senate Local Government Chair. This bill is just like the 25 others that get filed every year, which we as the legislature have to give permission to municipalities to bring forward to its voters. The City of Branson is seeking local voter support to expand the permissible uses of the previously voter-approved local tourism tax. This new use, if approved by Branson voters, would be for financing the construction and maintenance of an indoor sports facility to bring Branson's tourism industry to the next level. I will tell you, I know a little bit about this. It's shocking how much money some of these youth sports facilities, I've seen what they did in Cape and what they've done in other facilities, and the amount of people they bring to town. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we have a few people from Branson here to testify.
Seeing no questions to the senator. First up, can I say a show of hands, how many people are here to testify in favor of this bill? First up, in support of the bill, please come forward.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? So I'm here today in support of SB 1646. I've been a commercial real estate broker for over 40 years. 30 of those years has been in Branson, and I'm in my 3rd term as mayor. What's critical about this is Branson is obviously based on results. We've nailed the tourism industry, and we keep exceeding our tourism each year. Last year, we had $21.3 million put into our tourism fund just from the year 2025. This bill has been, the indoor sports facility, we've had 2 open meetings with this bill in the community, a lot of support. It passed the TIF Commission, which was the first meeting, and then it went to the Board of Aldermen. There again was another opportunity to educate the community, and it passed with the Board of Aldermen unanimously, 6-0.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, we're going to go and just cycle through. Anyone here in opposition to Senate Bill 1646?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jorgen Schlemeyer on behalf of the Missouri Hotel Lodging Association. The Branson Area Hotel Association is a member of ours, and they sent us comments to oppose the bill. The language that is in the bill in current law was voted on by the people, and we supported it at that point for that function. What our stance has been throughout the state of Missouri on all types of taxes that are generated somewhat by hotels is that the community meet with the hotel industry and get to an agreement on how the future use of those dollars, if they want to reallocate those from what the vote of the people were originally, and get to an agreement with them before they move forward. And we would ask that that happen with this proposal as well.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Seeing none. Anyone for informational purposes only? Yeah, next up will be in support.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Alex Gerard. I'm the Chief of Staff for the City of Branson. Like the Mayor said, as local governments, we play an important role in boosting economic development for our communities. We need to think outside the box. We need to find ways to utilize and leverage existing authorities. This tourism tax is a benefit to our community. It's critical to funding our infrastructure, but we're thinking of ways to not only invest in our community in the traditional infrastructure way, but also in sports tourism, a new facet of our community, and a new segment of industry of tourism, which we do the best at in Branson. Is going to bring new visitors to our community. We know in Branson, if someone visits, they have a 75% chance of coming back. This is a new segment that we want to bring to our town. We want to invest in it appropriately and smart. And again, at the end of the day, this is a local issue. This bill would just provide us the flexibility statutorily. We plan to bring this issue back to our voters in Branson, and we'll be able to have a community, an open, honest, and frank conversation with the community on all the details regarding not only this ballot initiative and tax, but how it's used and the sports facility itself. So we very much look forward to including the community at the appropriate time on the local level. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions? Seeing none. Next up in opposition. One more time for informational purposes only. Next up in support. Seeing none, this concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 1646. Next up, we'll be hearing House Bill 1707, Representative Coleman. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Jeff Coleman. I represent District 32, which is Oak Grove, Grain Valley, and Buckner. This will be quick. This is a bill for credit cards, using credit cards for small businesses specifically. This bill is designed to help eliminate the sales tax that they're being charged on credit card fees. So that's not income, it's not revenue to them, it's a pass-through to the merchant. So we're just asking for that to be eliminated. It passed out of all the committees with no opposition. It passed through the House with no opposition. It's similar to Senator Joe Nicola's Senate Bill 1534. And with that, I'll ask for any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Do we have any questions for the witness? Senator Lewis?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. You said similar to, it was similar, is it similar or identical to Senator Nicola's, or what changes?
It is, the language is, I think, identical other than the amendments that were added to
Okay,
his.
yeah.
However, I did change the title, so
Okay.
I narrowed the title.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Oh. All right, first up, they would like to testify in favor of this bill. Please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, excuse me, Ray McCarty, President of Associated Industries of Missouri, and as we testified on Senator Nicola's bill, credit card fees should already be exempt. They're already excluded from the definition of gross receipts because they are a fee incident to the extension of credit. However, the Department of Revenue is not wanting to recognize that at this time, and so this bill helps clarify that for them. It makes it very clear, and we're happy to support it.
Thank you. Have any questions to the witness? Seeing none. Anyone in opposition? Opposition? Seeing none. Informational purposes only. How many people do we have here to testify in favor of this bill? All right. Next up in favor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Jay Hahn on behalf of the Missouri Restaurant Association. We will be very brief. We already offered testimony. This is a fantastic bill. It's a good clerical fix, and we believe it is beneficial to all restaurants across the state of Missouri. If we can get this fix done, happy to support it.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions? Seeing none, next up in support.
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, David Overfelt, President of the Missouri Retailers Association, registered lobbyist for the Missouri Grocers Association and the Midwest Retail and Grocery Alliance. We do support this bill, as we did with Senator Nicola's bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions? Seeing none, next up in support.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Chance Epla here on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Just want to echo similar sentiments of the previous witnesses. We just want to go on record in support of this legislation. We believe it is common sense, it's pro-business. Whatever we can do to alleviate the burden for small businesses here in the state of Missouri, I think that's a win for all of us. And so because of that, we are happy to go on support, and we'll continue to work with the sponsor here and hopefully work with the Senate to get this passed across the finish line to the governor's desk. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Do you have any questions to the witness? Seeing none. Anyone else to testify
Thank you.
in favor of the bill? One more time. Anyone in opposition? Informational purposes only. Representative, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I'll just echo that this is a pro-business bill, and I appreciate the opportunity to have it heard in the Senate committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. This concludes the hearing for House Bill 1707. Before we move on to the next bill, we're going to go ahead and establish a quorum. Secretary, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Here.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. We have a quorum.
All right, we'll now be moving on to House Committee substitutes for House Bills 3231 and 2531. Representative Chris, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair and Senators. Appreciate you hearing this bill today. House Bill 3231 is a statewide economic development plan that is very needed. Since I've been up here, we're playing whack-a-mole and one-offs with all types of economic incentives. This was formed from a bill last year that didn't get very far to come up with a more statewide, consistent, accountable plan for economic development in the state. It is a rather complex, a large bill, but it's simple in the mindset that it creates an innovation zone for any city in the state. So this can affect any Senate district, any House district in the state, big and large. And you set up this innovation zone, and to do that, the city has to opt into that. And they have to do 3 qualifications to get there, which is, one, they have to designate that downtown area. They have to put local policy commitments in for one-stop, fast-track permitting, permit and fee waivers, set up a division of incremental property tax diversion, building code flexibility, and then they set that master scorecard with the economic development. So you have that stable, consistent scorecard that the entire state can use and gives that accountability across the state. Once that innovation zone is set up, there are 8 incentives in this, from tax abatements, tax deferrals, tax credits, and it also creates 2 funds for the Rural Development Fund and the Public Safety Zone Fund. And I'm happy to go into any of those state incentives. And there's also an angel investment tax credit that we added on in the House, which will help generate a lot of our startup businesses and economic development around the state. Again, the state's losing GDP over The last 3 to 4 decades, we've lost about a quarter of our GDP percentage of the share of the U.S., which equates to about $30 billion. So we need to get serious about economic development plan and quit doing one-off policies up here. And I think this creates a stable path forward. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions to the witness? Senator Lewis?
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm good, thanks. I just have a couple questions for you. Is it only one single innovation district per city?
Yes, so each city can request, again, with the Department of Economic Development to set that innovation zone up. It has to be historic boundaries of a main street if it's a smaller town, or the downtown area. So in St. Louis, where I'm from, it would be downtown and downtown west is probably be the historic zone they chose. But they set that up with the Department of Economic Development.
Okay, because I think of Kansas City, where I'm from, there's several historic areas with like 18th and Vine, downtown, Crossroads, and we've got lots of areas and hubs of innovation, and so I just don't want to tie our hands to only one location when we're kind of growing as a city.
Yeah, there's ways that the city, so Kansas City, could work with the Department of Economic Development to set those boundaries. There is give and take in this bill, so some cities might not want to expand it because there are a lot of tax incentives and tax abatements in it, and some permit changes that some cities don't like. So I think, again, the give and take will be a good parameter for when they do set those boundaries, but that is up to the executive branch of the city.
Okay. And then my other question, this is a very big bill, but I think I've seen the individual bills, throughout the years. Do you have like a cheater or a breakdown of the individual bills that you could share?
Yeah, I do. I've got an outline here, actually, which I can email to you that kind of breaks this whole bill down.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Seeing none, it's the show of hands. How many people here to testify in support of this bill? How many to testify in opposition? Informational. All right. First up, in favor of the bill, please come forward. Begin when you're ready.
Senator, if you don't mind, I have a vote I need to be on the floor for. Is that okay?
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jim Farrell, representing Historic Revitalization for Missouri. We're a statewide association that addresses issues as it relates to economic development and historic redevelopments across the state. We have a statewide board that covers the entire state, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. As the representative mentioned, this is a statewide strategy for economic development that's not focused on one or two projects, which was perceived last year. This was worked through the House and revising some of the very detailed tools that are designed to attract and be competitive nationally, not just in the Midwest, but attract businesses and companies and residents and employees, as well as creating thousands of jobs on these various projects. So we've really focused on making this available statewide, the smaller communities, as well as the larger cities and towns. So we want to make sure that this is focused on the broad range of the statewide economic development strategy. It is focus on various projects as well as regions throughout the state that can benefit. One of the things I wanted to point out was in terms of the fiscal note, they refer to quite a bit of 50, 60, 70 million as it grows and more projects come on board. But most of these projects are anywhere from 2, 3, 5 years. And so the investment will be 5 times what the actual requests for tax credits are, or incentives. And so, for example, the AT&T Tower, which is in St. Louis, would be one that would request to participate in this. They anticipate investing $350 to $400 million over this period of time, and then it will be phased in and then reimbursed at the end of the project. So I just wanted to keep the focus on that this is major investments throughout the state, and it's designed to attract companies outside the state, and the incentives are based on net new revenues. And so the combination of monies that would flow to the state and would be also the ability to invest back into the communities and the neighboring properties around these larger projects as well. So be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in support.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Danny Robertson, Director of Development for Arnold Development Group out of Kansas City. I'm here to speak in support of House Bill 3231. This bill is the difference between a transformative project happening and simply not happening at all. Arnold Development Group has a shovel-ready project in Kansas City totaling over $100 million in investment. It's ready. It has community support. We spent years getting it structured, and it sits right on the edge of financial viability and the edge that this bill moves it over. The 9th and Central project is a $115 million office to residential conversion, 2 vacant downtown office buildings transformed into 192 mixed income units with 49% affordable. Critically, we are preserving over 100,000 square feet of commercial office space as well, and that's in the downtown core. We're not eliminating it. This is the kind of balanced density that cities actually need. The hard truth about a lot of office conversion projects without up to 30% conversion tax credit and construction phase withholding advance, like is in HB3231, deals like this one don't pencil out. The gap is real, and the financing structures are already leveraging every available tool. That includes low-income housing tax credits, historic tax credits, and investment tax credits. And there's still a gap, and this bill can close it. Before I close, I want to address something that comes up every time tax credits are discussed, the assumption that this is public money being handed to developers. It is not. Tax credits are purchased by private corporations, banks, insurance companies, who invest their own capital into a project in exchange for a future reduction in their federal or state tax liability. The public receives the housing, the jobs, and the community space. The investor receives a tax reduction they have already earned the right to claim. No appropriation, no general revenue transfer. The state is not writing a check. It is creating the conditions for private capital to flow into communities that the market has failed to serve on its own. And here's what the bill does not do. It does not require us to bring in private equity that extracts returns from the community for decades. The withholding advance ties credits directly to Missouri construction jobs, union and local workers building these projects from the ground up. The fast-track permitting means months, not years of carrying costs. And the scorecard system rewards exactly what these projects deliver, affordability and historic preservation. The $50 million annual statewide cap is not a handout. It is targeted, accountable, and job-generating capital that turns stalled projects into operational communities. Missouri has the buildings, it has the developers, it has the need. What Missouri has not had is the policy bridge to make those deals work without extractive capital. And HB 3231 is that bridge. So, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next up in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Chairman, committee members, my name is Pat Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of Municipal League Metro St. Louis, and just want to go on record in support of the bill. Simply put, we believe that this economic development tool is vitally needed to recruit new investment into the St. Louis region and St. Louis City specifically. We see this as bringing in new money, not only from investors in the state of Missouri, but also out of state. And it's a much needed tool, and we support the bill and hope that you will. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Have any questions to the witness? Seeing none. Before we continue with the next witness, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to go into executive session, if I have a second. We are now in executive session. I move that Senate Bill 1608 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. This is Senator Washington's bill we heard before spring break. Senate Bill 1608 authorizes tax credit for contributions to certain youth police initiatives. I move that the committee vote to pass Senate Bill 1608. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Is there any discussion?
It's wonderful to pass.
Well, there you go. Secretary, any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. By your vote of 6-0, you have voted to do pass Senate Bill 1608.
I now make a motion we exit executive session, resume our normal hearing. Do I have a second? We are out of executive session. So back to the hearing for a House Committee substitute for House Bills 3231 and 2531. Next up in support.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Matt O'Leary. I'm here as Executive Director of Downtown Forward, a relatively new organization working towards the revitalization of downtown St. Louis. I'm here to testify enthusiastically in favor of this bill. Downtowns all over the country, including in booming areas like Dallas, are struggling mightily post-COVID with the paradigm shift of remote work environments. I can't emphasize strongly enough how much of a threat to downtown central business districts across the state this poses. And there is a multiplier effect that most people don't appreciate. Not only are existing businesses in downtowns downsizing, resulting in declining occupancies and dramatically fewer employees, but the downsizing of office footprints in suburban areas is creating sizable vacancies in these suburban markets, which also decreases rental rates. And the combination of previously unavailable suburban office space becoming available due to downsizing combined with lower rental rates are luring businesses out of downtown markets into the suburbs at remarkable rates all over the country. Inevitably, the future of Missouri's downtowns will increasingly be mixed use, with residential uses playing an increasingly important role in our center cities. And this bill will play an incredibly important role in successfully facilitating this once in several generations transformation of Missouri's downtowns. Board Bill 3231, if passed, will play this role in two ways. First, it will assist in the transformation of mostly older and functionally obsolete office properties that are vacant or marginally occupied into residential properties, allowing remaining office tenancies to be consolidated into a more limited number of still viable office properties. Second, and more importantly, this bill will focus on the demand side of the equation, helping downtowns transform their infrastructure and public safety environments to make downtowns even more attractive to prospective residents, tourists and visitors, and the still sizable number of remaining office tenants. Moreover, this bill will provide direct incentives to fill residential and office properties with people, as well as support high-growth entrepreneurial businesses. I ask for your support for this bill and appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions? Seeing none. Next up in favor of the bill.
Right here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Scott Ramshaw with the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters out of St. Louis. We're in favor of this bill. We feel it'll be help the city of St. Louis out and other areas across the state. We're seeing a large uptick in projects moving across the state, but it's very important that we try to figure out the areas and to help the buildings to sustain them in the areas of which they need some help. We train our members from residential plumbing to the nuclear powerhouse. We have approximately 850 apprentices in a 5-year program right now. We see that to continue to bring more apprentices in as on a need basis. We have an MBE program, a WBE program, and it's important in these cities that we bring the youth into those projects so that they don't have to travel far and that we can build a workforce and next generation for the next generations of projects that'll come down the line. So we would appreciate your support, and the committee support.
Thank you for your testimony. Could you repeat your name one more time
Yeah,
for the record?
Scott Ramshaw
Okay.
with the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters out of St. Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Anyone else in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, again, Chance Hepla here on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We just want to go on record in support of this legislation. As always, the Chamber supports any opportunity to spur economic development here in the state, in that opportunity to drive innovation that, in essence, fosters a strong economic climate here in the state of Missouri. We believe this bill does that, and for that reason, that's why we are in support of this. Oftentimes, many of our members are looking for new and innovative ways to grow their operations, and then in turn create more sustainable jobs here in the state of Missouri. And so there's that portion of it, but then also to the opportunity to truly revitalize a number of our downtowns, a number of our main streets here in the state of Missouri. So again, happy to support this legislation, happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions for the witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Next up in favor. Anyone not named Tim Brinker, please feel free to come forward.
Good morning, Senator, Mr. Chair, and good morning, great senators across the board. Thank you. My name is Tim Brinker. I am the Senior Policy Director for Greater St. Louis Incorporated, and it's a pleasure to be before you today speaking on this incredible opportunity. We are here in strong support of 3231, which provides a critical tool to accelerate the conversion and underutilized office space into residential housing throughout our great state. And I mean throughout our great state. This legislation also makes sure that there's a rural development fund established that can apply to any of our great state's municipalities should they choose to propose the IOZ, Innovation Opportunity Zone. Across Missouri, especially in downtown St. Louis, we're facing a structural shift in how office space is used. Remote and hybrid work have left many buildings partially vacant, creating economic drag in our urban cores. At the same time, we face a clear need for more housing options, particularly in walkable, amenity-rich areas that can attract and retain talent. House Bill 3231 smartly addresses both challenges by incentivizing office to residential conversions. This legislation helps revitalize downtown corridors, increases housing supply, and puts existing infrastructure to better use without the need for costly greenfield development. From a business perspective, vibrant downtowns matter. Employers want to locate and grow in places where people want to live. Converting obsolete office buildings into housing brings foot traffic back to our streets, supports small businesses, and enhances public safety throughout this increased activity. Just as importantly, this represents a fiscally responsible approach to redevelopment. It leverages private investment, reduces long-term vacancy risk, and helps all those stabilized local tax bases throughout. House Bill 3231 is a pragmatic, market-aligned solution that turns challenges into opportunities for growth and reinvention. On behalf of Greater St. Louis, the unified voice of the business community of the St. Louis region, we strongly urge your support of this legislation. I'd be more than happy to accept any questions or queries you all may have.
Thank you for that testimony. Do we have any questions to the witness? Saying none.
Thank you. You're all great Americans. Don't forget it.
Anyone else in support? Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jay Simon. I am a developer with City Investments Company as well as my general contractor with Metropolitan Build. I operate out of the St. Louis metropolitan area, but I also have projects in the Kansas City, Missouri, and the city area itself. One example I'm going to give you today, since you're talking more in the specifics of the bill and what it provides, I thought it might help you understand how it really impacts a project. In the heart of the central business district of downtown St. Louis lies a vacant building designed by Henry Ives Cobb, a famous Chicago architect and built in the late 1890s. It's known as the Chemical Bank Building, a 17-story structure with a series of bay windows vertically aligned along both 8th Street and Olive, lying vacant now for 2 decades, except of course for vagrants that inhabit it on a somewhat regular basis. It sits next to the Hotel St. Louis, a famous Louis Sullivan design that has been beautifully restored on the one side and an Isaac Taylor architectural gem on the north side on 8th Street. Both adjacent properties are heavily impacted by the deteriorating structure, as evidenced in a December 2025 Business Journal article describing the blighted conditions. The copper lines have been stripped out, the roof leaks like a sieve, the steel and brick mortars continue to deteriorate as pieces of the building fall onto the roof of the building to the north. So the choice is to save the building or to condemn it and remove it from the National Register of Historic Places. This action would create a significant void in the historic landscape of downtown St. Louis. My partners, who are from Nevada and Colorado, have the 182,000 square foot building under contract as of 30 days ago. And we only have 5 more months to decide to move forward and restore this architectural gem or let it fall to the wrecking ball. You see 3 other developers have tried and failed already over the past 2 decades, at least that I know of, probably more. Even with the historic tax credits, which offer tremendous assistance to any developer, and the pro-development city government in place that we have offered abatement and other incentives, it still does not and has not made sense to any developer before me. One concept is fully restoring the building to its original brilliance and creating 108 apartments and 120 first-class hotel rooms, 2 restaurants, shops, fitness center, and all the amenities that you would expect in a 4-star hotel and in a high-class apartment complex. Amenities are what is needed for apartments to attract and retain their occupants. The proposed legislation would assist in providing approximately $20 million in additional credits that can be monetized for approximately $18 million. Over $135 million is our total investment into this project, so that's better than the 6-to-1 return. And that $18 million wouldn't be in effect until 2029 to 2030. The boost could go a long way in making the decision to move forward with this project. It reduces the risk required when you put your life savings on the line to the banks and your credibility to your investors needed to provide the lion's share of the funds. To make this project work, we need your help to pass this vital legislation, not just for our project, but for the collective of vacant office buildings that need to be converted to residential use. Since COVID, and really even before, the move of the business community out of downtown can only be revitalized by attracting new residents and creating an environment where feet on the street will cause retail and commercial businesses to return. I strongly encourage you to vote in favor of Senate Bill 3231. Thank you. Any questions?
That's my job. Any questions? Seeing none. See, you intimidated them. They scared them all away.
Okay.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up in support, just to check one more time, is there anyone in opposition that happened to walk in? Doesn't look like it. Go ahead, begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Emily Lewis, testifying on behalf of the Missouri Bankers Association. Would just echo the sentiments of previous witnesses and happy to be on record in support of the bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Next up in favor.
Good morning, Jay Schroeder, Missouri Fraternal Order of Police, here to testify in support of this bill. We like the public safety funding portion of that bill. I'm staying for any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, you're off the hook. Next up in favor.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Sarah Schlemmer here on behalf of Next Missouri and BioSTL. Want to go on record in support of the bill, in particular the Angel tax credit that has been integrated into this policy in the House. We appreciate the representative for being willing to add this into his proposal, and we believe that that incentive makes sure that there are good economic benefits to businesses throughout their lifespan. The Angel tax credit really focusing on new innovative startups that we know are to credit for 80% of net new jobs in the state. So I want to make sure that they are an integral role in these innovation zones. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Next up in favor. Seeing none. Just last call. Anyone for informational purposes? And no one else here. No one here to testify in opposition. That will conclude the hearing for House Committee Substitute for House Bills 3231 and 2531. Our last bill being heard today will be Senate Bill 1547. Senator Trent, please begin when you're ready.
Let me get in deeper. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Curtis Trent, representing Senate District 20. This is a bill on a series of benevolent tax credits, domestic violence, maternity homes, diaper banks, and pregnancy resource centers. In all cases, it's a 70% match, $100,000 per taxpayer, and a $500,000 limit on the tax credits for the diaper bank only. This attempts to utilize the rural health transformation program, and so because of that, these changes are targeted at entities that would serve rural communities as defined by that act. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have any questions? Senator Washington.
Hi, thank you for bringing this. Is there a way you can get us the figures for how much has actually been, how much credits have actually been used in the last couple of years?
Oh, on the existing programs?
Yeah, because
I'm sure that information is available.
well,
We can get that to the committee.
Because
This
the reason
is-
I ask is because we're continuing to increase this tax credit in a state that does not have abortion. And so I'm all for the pregnancy crisis centers, but if they're only to help with getting babies to earth and to help with adoption or whatever resources, I mean, if as soon as I have my baby, I'm getting kicked out and I'm not getting any additional resources, I'm just having some heartburn as to why we keep increasing this tax credit. And we're taking I think last year we took $10 million from TANF to pay for these tax credits. That's $10 million that we could feed hungry children or those who need it or whatever. So I'm not opposed to giving tax credits, as you know, but I do want to make sure that we're not increasing just to increase, especially given that we have not been able to have abortions in our state since 2019. And while we voted in November to do something different, we still have not, we're still not really performing them like folks think. I know in my district, there is it's actually in her district, but it's across the street from my district. There is a Planned Parenthood. They have not resumed. And then the one that's in my district has not resumed. So I just want to make sure, and I do have pregnancy crisis centers in my district. And so I just want to make sure, like if you're telling me that, hey, we're using that TANF money to help these young ladies get back on their feet, help them with, getting some rent, getting an apartment or whatever, but I would have to I need to know
Well, this
what
is-
is the impetus for why we're continuing to increase the tax credit here and taking money from poor folks for babies that are, for little kids that aren't able to eat. We're taking money away from the most vulnerable and we're giving it to entities that may or may not still be doing what their initial purpose was. So if you could just get us those numbers, that would be great.
And I would like to note again, this is the Rural Health Transformation Program that these are targeted at.
But your bill is for tax credits for
Utilizing, yes, in rural areas of the state, the Rural Health Transformation Program. And I think we'll have a witness that will come up that will further elaborate on that. But it's a little bit different than the programs as they
so
currently
why did
exist.
your bill have the pregnancy tax credits, diaper bank tax credits? I mean, that's what this bill is. So you want to expand this tax credit to rural health? Don't act frustrated with me. This your bill.
No, I got it. I don't think you're understanding. Like, this is utilizing the Rural Health Transformation Program. So this is beyond the existing program. If you'll look at the parts that are in bold, the new parts, we're not changing the program as it exists. We're trying to utilize this program now under the Rural Health Transformation Program.
The federal regulations say that we can use it for these purposes?
I believe so.
Okay. So it is using rural health transformation funds for crisis pregnancy centers, is that the best use for the people down in the Boot Hill that don't have ambulance services?
Well,
Or
that would be
don't
my
have
contention.
An ability to, you said what?
I mean, my contention is that we can do all those things under this program. So I don't think we're having to trade off in the way that you're suggesting.
But we already trading off because we already don't have ambulance services in the Boot Hill. I've said this a million times. My best friend's a heart surgeon. He's from Haytown, Missouri. And all he wanted to do when he got out of medical school was come home to Haytown, Missouri. But guess what he could not do in Haytown, Missouri or anything south of Cape Girardeau? Cut a person, because there ain't no places for him to cut people. Now, I think he's demented because he still likes to cut people. And will quit a job if there are not enough surgeries that week. However, I'd like to talk with you offline about that. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time.
Be happy
but
to.
I think that where we are with rural health, that our resources would be better put into primary care that is missing from rural health. And the thing about rural health that I think people don't understand, why us city folks, including yourself, why we concern ourselves with this, let me finish, is when you don't have the resources in the rural community, like if you don't have a children's hospital, then you got to go to St. Louis or you got to come to Kansas City. And then our children are pushed back because there may be an emergency from your child that pushes back. I watched this happen in COVID. There was a child that needed an internal surgery. Well, surgeries are always scheduled unless they're a dire emergency. But if a child came in there with COVID, which is what happened, and they were really sick, that child, who, mind you, it was a heart surgery, had to have their surgery rescheduled. And that should not happen. And we can fix that if we take these funds that we're getting from the federal government to fix the problems that we have. But we can talk offline. Thank you.
Any further questions? Senator Lewis.
Good morning, Senator. I'm checking, it's still morning. So I just have a question, just a clarification. I was on the same wavelength that she was thinking. So this is, the funding for this is coming from the federal level, from the Rural Transformation Fund. Is that correct?
So, yes. So what we're doing here, if you'll look, we can just take the first one. They're all structured pretty much the same. For all fiscal years beginning on or after July 1st, 2026, a taxpayer shall be allowed to claim a tax credit in an amount equal to 100% of the amount such taxpayer contributed to a shelter for victims of domestic violence or rape crisis center if such shelter for victims of domestic violence or rape crisis center is located in a rural area or serves a large number of residents in a rural area being defined as the Rural Health Transformation Act program administered there in the definitions.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I can definitely read. But what I'm trying to understand, so you've got this information about the Rural Health Transformation Program, and it said submitted November 2025. So, we've submitted an application to get money from the feds. Money's been allocated. The funding for the tax credits, it has a fiscal note of, what, 9 million? So is the funding from this, because we talk about the budget cuts that are, happening right now. We talk about income tax removal. So the 9 million fiscal impact is the federal dollars coming from your plan, the Rural Health Transformation Program, dollars coming from the feds, is that going to pay for the tax credits?
I'm not entirely sure what your question is at this point. You want to know if federal money is going to pay
Well,
for this?
I'm trying to understand the link between this Rural Health Transformation Program.
And you're looking at the fiscal note on
Yeah,
this?
Yeah, there's a fiscal note of $9 million. Okay, I can move on.
Don't move on. Can I help her real quick?
Sure, we want to
Just
make
with
sure.
this question.
We want to make sure
Real
we
quick,
give
all
everybody
she's
the
asking you is, you're getting money from the feds. Are you asking that we use that money to supplant the tax credits that you want to expand to the rural areas? Or is this in addition to the federal money for rural health?
So
And if you don't know, you can
I
answer
think
us later.
we can certainly try to clarify this later. We're going to utilize the structure of this rural transformation program to administer the expansion of the tax credits in rural areas.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think to the senator's comments of like that, I just get concerned with, we've got rural hospitals closing and focus on funding. But I believe me, I've supported these tax credits in the past. I think you and I have partnered with the diaper banks tax credit. But another question I had is the diaper bank in my district, Happy Bottoms, services. It's in an urban area, but services outside in rural areas. I think my understanding, they're located in urban, but since they service rural areas, they would qualify for the tax credit.
That's correct.
Okay. But then my concern is domestic violence shelters in my district. If predominantly the survivors are serviced from urban areas, they wouldn't get tax credits. They wouldn't if they're servicing only folks from urban areas, even though they're survivors of domestic violence.
I don't believe this will change how urban areas are treated. We're just changing how rural areas.
But but I guess if you're contributing financially to a domestic violence shelter that services rural areas, you get more of a tax incentive than an urban area.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would characterize it that way. I think these two things operate in parallel. So you've got your urban.
No, I mean, that's exactly what it's doing. And I'm just pointing that out, that I just think that we should treat survivors of domestic violence, no matter where they're located or serviced or getting help, the same, whether you're urban or rural. I'm not very comfortable with that disparity. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Show of hands, how many here to testify in favor of this bill? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many to testify in opposition? Any for informational? All right, first up in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Samuel Lee, registered lobbyist with Campaign Life Missouri, to go on record in support of Senate Bill 1547. Very grateful to Senator Trent for sponsoring this because, as he knows, this was inspired by the Rural Health Transformation Program that passed Congress, which initially has provided $216 million in new funds, with the condition that if the state of Missouri and other states want more funds, they have to pass legislation which increases health care and social services in the rural areas of the state. And so we're very grateful that he recognized this and had the vision to sponsor this bill so that we can bring in not only those funds, but additional funds if we pass this and other similar legislation. So, Senator, to answer your question, no, in a roundabout way, the rural health transformation funding doesn't directly pay for tax credits because that doesn't, but this bill potentially could draw down more funding. We're talking about millions, tens of millions of dollars of additional funding if this passes. Secondly, Senator Washington, to answer your question, on page 10 of the bill, it does give specifically for pregnancy resource centers, the total amount redeemed for the last, 13, 14 years. And it does with all the tax credits. So what this would do, and there's a handout here, which is the application that the Department of Social Services submitted to the federal government, which they approved in order for them to get this initial outlay of $216 million to help rural residents in Missouri. The very first thing that they asked the federal government, or they told the federal government they're going to do, is to use these funds for regional coordinating networks and hub activation. You can read that yourself. But it's basically having your hospitals and clinics collaborate and integrate with your local domestic violence shelters, diaper banks, maternity homes, and pregnancy resource centers in providing social services, providing help to their patients, to their clients. And that's exactly what this bill is intended to do. If you look on the next page, this isn't from the Department of Social Services, but this is a map that I've put together to help us visually see where we are lacking these four agencies in the state. And you can see we have plenty, maybe not enough, but certainly plenty in Jackson County, St. Louis County, St. Louis. But you look in the Boot Heel, and other than a domestic violence shelter in Poplar Bluff in Butler County, there are no domestic violence shelters. There are a couple of pregnancy resource centers in Cape Girardeau and Scott County, but in the Boot Heel in northern Missouri, if you draw a line from Jackson County to Boone County, there's one domestic violence shelter in Lafayette County. What this bill is intended to do is to not change the tax credits that donors are getting now if they donate to a domestic violence shelter in any of your districts. But if that shelter or that agency is either located in one of the 97 rural counties or the additional 7 rural adjacent counties, which is 104 counties out of the 114 plus the city of St. Louis, if they're located or if they serve many of their clients. So, for instance, a diaper bank in Greene County that's not a rural county, but they're serving tons of people in the surrounding area. And I would suspect probably the same in Jackson County and in St. Louis County and in St. Charles County. So that's what this is about. It's taking what Congress has passed and in a roundabout way, using not directly using those funds, but giving the state of Missouri an ability to draw down even more funding, which I would think more than surpass the $9.5 million fiscal note on this bill. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Senator Lewis.
Thank you for providing the clarification, because in other committees I serve on, we're talking about things that we applied for to draw down federal money,
right,
and perhaps get additional federal money in the future, like updates to telehealth, making it less restrictive for our APRN. So I'm familiar with this, and that's what I was trying to get to.
Right,
so thank
right.
you for the clarification.
And I appreciate your concern of not just your district, but rural Missouri. I mean, these are maternity care deserts, and there are residents there who just need help, and this will be an incentive for some of these agencies to branch out to serve those, or even to maybe open up a satellite domestic violence shelter or a satellite maternity home where there's just nothing available nearby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Senator Washington?
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Certainly,
Lee,
Senator.
I'm sorry for
Oh, no, that's fine,
the
Senator.
clarification.
That's fine.
So just for my edification, this is just a way to leverage the funding that we're getting from rural health transformation from the feds, right?
Correct. And
to
bring down,
leverage the fact
draw
that
down
we
more.
have that, and then we're going to offer a credit if we're going to expand some of these services to some rural areas, correct?
That's the hope. That's the desire.
So is this
right?
can it be used for people that, like, when I look to see, I know you said that they would provide social services and partner with health, basic health care in some communities, but you mentioned specifically the boot heel.
Right.
But if there are no health providers for them to partner with, then what do we do? Because what I don't want to see is people saying, hey, this is a domestic violence shelter.
Sure.
All of a sudden, and you're getting all these tax credits and you're getting whatever other funding, and you're not actually providing the social services for the women or men who need health care.
Right.
So it's something we could talk about offline. I know that that's not something in your purview, but again, I'm totally not against expanding services to our rural community. I think anybody that knows me knows I have a big heart, especially for Saline County
Yes.
and Lafayette County. But looking there, for instance, there's no, you don't have any social services, any dots in Saline County at all.
Right. It's empty
And so
there.
if,
Right.
if the idea is that they would partner with, say, Fitzgibbons Hospital, who's closing possibly, then I just don't want to see an advantage taken. I don't want folks taking advantage of this opportunity. But we can talk offline. Thank you.
And maybe what will happen is that some of the local folks will say, we really do need a domestic violence shelter. Yeah. We need to open up a domestic violence shelter in Saline County, and then the donors would get 100% income tax.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move to anyone who would like to speak in opposition. Please come forward.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Craig Ward. I live in Ashland, Missouri. I'm here to speak in opposition to this bill, specifically the part that increases state support for the pregnancy resource centers, also known as pregnancy health centers or crisis pregnancy centers. My opposition is based on what I take to be that these centers have already been receiving millions of dollars in state support. Given the state of our state's budget and the deficits that are being faced and the other areas of the budget that are facing cuts and deficits, that this is not a good time to increase funding to these pregnancy centers. As I said, they are not regulated. They've not been required to report on how they are using the money that they get from the state. The state's own Maternal and Infant Health Review Board studies, publishes, and releases data on the current state of infant and maternal health, and it makes recommendations for improvements. And those, in our own state's Review Board does not include funding for these types of pregnancy organizations, and therefore I'm opposed to that portion of the bill. I would ask that the language allowing for a 100% tax credit for donations to these pregnancy centers be struck, and that they be required to publicly report on how they are spending the tax benefits and the tax dollars they already receive. Thank you.
This is a quick question. So was it only the one piece, or were you opposed to any other tax credits included in here as well?
I am not opposed to the diaper banks or the domestic violence centers at all. It's only those pregnancy resource centers.
So you mentioned some reporting requirements. Is that the case with these other tax credits too, or just
It's
just
my
more of
understanding, I'm sorry, it's my understanding that they do report and that they've established a record of what they do with the money.
But you're saying in a manner that the maternity homes do not?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Next up, in favor of the bill.
Good morning. My name is Timothy Faber, registered lobbyist with Issachar LLC. I also happen to be the husband of a very fine lady who operates 2 pregnancy help centers in a rural area, Camdenton and Versailles. Versailles being what someone referred to a while ago as a satellite center. It's our understanding of this legislation that the tax credit is going to the individual, not to the pregnancy help center directly. In rural areas, there's a lesser amount of businesses or wealthy individuals who donate regularly to pregnancy help centers. I know the PHC here in Jefferson City has several local businesses that contribute regularly, and they probably get the tax credit. But to incentivize individuals who, whether they're wealthy or not, to give in rural areas, or even businesses from non-rural areas to support a center or other community-based organization listed in here in a rural area to kind of balance the playing field. Insurance is the same. Utilities are the same. Rent on a facility is the same for these community-based organizations in rural areas. And so the tax credit is a credit to the individual who makes a donation and is not going directly to these organizations, but it would help level the playing field so that they can serve the clients in the rural area more effectively.
Thank you very much for that testimony. Do we have any questions? Seeing none. Next up, in opposition.
My name is Gay Salisbury, and I'm from Centralia, Missouri, and I am testifying in opposition to Senate Bill 1547. I really object to giving tax credits and funding for unregulated pregnancy centers. I'm also one who's concerned about that part of the bill. They are not required to employ licensed medical professionals, nor are they required to disclose the license or lack of to their clients. They are not subject to federal privacy laws, so therefore data is collected on those individuals who participate in those centers, and I think that's a problem. They are not regulated by the state. They don't report how they use their money. They, seems to me, distort information and language about abortion. They don't tell clients that abortion is legal in the state of Missouri now, and they don't give them options other than just continue with your pregnancy. That's all they tell them. So I think the people of Missouri would be better served providing funding and tax credits for regulated clinics that give clients honest information about abortion and reproductive health choices.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions, Senator Lewis?
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm good.
Thank you for being here. Oops. Sorry, I'm on. Thank you for being here. I share your concern as well. I think when we're talking about taxpayer dollars, transparency is very important. And when people are seeking advice and they're not, required to give medically accurate information is very concerning to me. So just wanted to share that I share your concern. I think I've got a study in front of me or statistics that a congressional investigation found that 87% of unregulated pregnancy centers provide false information or misleading information. So I just think that, it's very important to
It is very important that they are honest about what's available and their choices.
Yeah, and especially if we're
individual's
using,
choice.
federal dollars to draw down and taxpayer incentives, that it needs to go. We have to be very selective with our finances these days,
True.
and I would prefer them not to go to a unregulated center.
Yes.
Seeing no further questions, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up, in favor of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Susan Klein, representing Missouri Right to Life, here to go on record in support of Senate Bill 1547. And we thank Senator Trent for bringing this important legislation forward. Our pregnancy resource centers do great work. These are women that walk in that have chosen to keep their babies. They're wanting help. They're in rural areas, they're in suburban areas, they're across our state. And we need to look for new ways, as Senator Trent has done, in finding resources that we can give help to the pregnancy resource centers, who do have licensed technicians that come in and do ultrasounds. And if you go to their banquets, there's a report of what services they've offered, how many women they've helped. And so that information is available out there. But we need to find ways to provide the services that these women need, whether it's through the Pregnancy Resource Center, through the maternity homes tax credit. Diaper bank, obviously, is something that is supported, obviously, by the Pregnancy Resource Centers and maternity homes. Churches take, donations throughout the year through baby bottle campaigns and donate to these maternity homes as well. So there are resources that come into them, but if we can find other ways to help women in domestic violence situations, I think that we as a state need to do that and find all the resources that we can, whether state level or federal level. And we appreciate your support, and Senator, for bringing this forward.
This real quickly. So you mentioned, I heard the phrase unlicensed thrown around a lot, but you're saying that everyone would come in here and do a procedure that would be properly licensed in that field for that, according to their scope of practice.
Right, and many of these licensed technicians that come in and perform these ultrasounds are doing it voluntarily. They're not charging the Pregnancy Resource Center for their services. So they are wanting to help women in crisis pregnancies.
Thank you for that clarification. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your
Thank you.
testimony. Anyone else in opposition?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marta Weiss, and I live in Boone County, just north of Columbia. I agree with my preceding people on being in opposition of the crisis pregnancy centers specifically, not the diaper banks and all that. My question is, since they've already covered a couple of my things I was talking about, is when I was reading up about these, a lot of them are religious-based, mainly majority by Christian-based. And my question is, I thought there was a long history of separation between church and state. So if these are Christian-based, why are tax dollars going to probably Christian people who are donating to them, giving them tax incentives? That just seems like that's in opposition to what our not our Constitution, but what our founding fathers have said, to keep a separation of church and state on that. And my other question is, I have done a little bit of reading about this, and it says that many of these centers, maybe not all, but many of them, when you apply to work there or maybe volunteer there, they want to know what your affiliation is, your religious affiliation, and they mainly hire Christian people. That sounds like discrimination to me, which I thought was against the law to do that. So that is one of my main concerns.
Thank you for your testimony. Just out of curiosity, do you have any, where did the data come from that shows that they're only or primarily hiring people of one particular religion as opposed to another?
I just looked online, and I know you cannot believe everything online, but I can't imagine someone saying it, because there's also, they mentioned it's not just Christian, there's a Jewish organization that also helps with these. But I have not seen anything that said anything as opposed to that. So there's nothing that said that it's all denominations or that it's no denominations.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any further questions? Seeing none. Next up, in favor of the bill?
Do a little side shuffle here.
Good morning. I think we're still morning. Yes, we are. Good morning. My name is Ward Cook on behalf of Happy Bottoms in Kansas City. We want to specifically testify to the diaper bank tax credit expansion and thank Senator Trent for his willingness to expand this. We currently support 7% of the needy families in our 6 counties. I don't know the actual breakdown of urban versus rural. I tried to get that before the testimony, but much of that is rural needy families that are in need of support for diaper banks. We passed out 6.7 million diapers just last year, and thanks much in part to the tax credit that you all passed last year. So the expansion of this tax credit would definitely go to needy families and would be used. We maxed out our tax credit right away. So happy to answer any questions on top of that. Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions? Senator Lewis?
Thanks for being here. I'm
Absolutely,
just
Senator.
pointing out that you were shaking your head behind
Yes.
the senator when I asked the question that even though Happy Bottoms sits in an urban area,
Correct.
like you said, you service many rural areas, so you all,
Correct.
and diaper
And-
banks in St. Louis, et cetera, would benefit from
Correct, and the need has expanded into Nottoway, Buchanan, up north. So many of those counties up in northern Missouri, we're now servicing either partly or fully. So
Yep.
the need continues to expand, unfortunately.
Right, it does.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm so grateful for Happy Bottoms, and certainly invite the chair to come visit it sometime, because it came through the tax credits came through this committee last year, and
Yes.
it's a fun place to go volunteer for the day.
Yeah, and you feel like you've accomplished something at the end of the
Yes.
day. That's for sure, and you made a difference. So
Yep.
that's how we feel every day.
Thank you.
Yep, our folks do. Thanks. Thank you, Senator. Next up that would like to testify in opposition.
Hello, Chairman Brown and members of this committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Dana Sandweiss. I'm here from St. Louis, Missouri. And I am here today because, like every member of this committee, I deeply care about health, safety, and dignity of women and families in Missouri. And I remember when I was pregnant with my 2 children, how it felt. It was exciting, but it was also new and different, and at times confusing and scary to make decisions for myself and for my family. And I believe at this vulnerable time, Missouri women just deserve honest information and medical care they can support and trust. And that's why I strongly oppose the portion of Senate Bill 1547 that allows individuals to donate to crisis pregnancy centers and write off 100% of their tax liability to these pregnancy resource centers. These centers are not licensed medical facilities, and they've been criticized for providing inaccurate and misleading medical information to patients. This bill would significantly increase support from them from 70 to 100%, and this feels to me dishonest and irresponsible. I think about young women in Missouri and their daughters and our nieces and neighbors and all pregnant people in Missouri and what happens when they need help. They deserve care that they can trust, not confusion or misinformation. I know that Missouri struggles with maternal mortality and infant mortality, and I believe that this committee and this legislative body have the authority, by not siphoning our tax dollars, constituents' tax dollars, to unregulated organizations. As someone deeply committed to improving outcome for women and for families in our communities, I urge you to focus our resources on regulated healthcare solutions that are evidence-based, transparent, and accountable. And for these reasons, I respectfully ask for you to oppose this portion of Senate Bill 1547.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions? Seeing none. Just a reminder, everyone testifying, be sure to leave a witness form there on the table for us. Next up, that would like to testify in support.
Good morning, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Ryan DeBoof, testifying on behalf of Council of Churches of the Ozarks, which runs the Diaper Bank of the Ozarks. So that is the diaper bank that covers the bulk of the southwest part of the state. Here to testify in support of the diaper bank provisions in the bill. Many thanks to Senator Trent for including diaper banks in this bill. As Mr. Cook testified with regard to the Kansas City area, the same is true in southwest Missouri, in that the need for access to low or no-cost diapers by needy families far exceeds the availability of the diapers at the Diaper Bank of the Ozarks. So the expansion of this tax credit would greatly benefit access to diapers for some of our neediest families. One interesting thing I would point out is that the diaper bank tax credit currently operates at a lesser percentage than the other tax credits in this bill. So one of the big reasons we support this bill is it would create parity between those tax credit programs to put diaper banks on the same level as some of these other tax credit programs. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in opposition?
Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Bridget Dunlap. I believe the state needs to be doing a better job caring for our most vulnerable women and children. Every metric indicates we are not in any position to reduce revenue by giving more millions of tax dollars to unregulated crisis pregnancy centers that do not provide medical care. Missouri's infant mortality rate is higher than the national average, and our preterm birth rate earned us a grade of D- from the March of Dimes. Our maternal mortality rate is among the highest in the nation, and this nation already has an unacceptably high maternal mortality rate. Close to half of Missouri counties have no maternity care, and another 21% have as few as one obstetrician. It took a year longer than it should have for the legislature to accept federal funds so postpartum women could have a year of Medicaid coverage. This was celebrated as a rare bipartisan win, but the delay likely resulted in additional preventable postpartum deaths. Missouri has been kicking eligible kids off Medicaid in large numbers thanks to poor management and underfunding of the eligibility review process. This has caused children to go without medical care, causing them to need treatment in emergency rooms for manageable conditions like asthma. A federal judge ruled that Missouri is illegally denying food insecure Missourians SNAP benefits. Missourians regularly endure hours on hold trying to reach our benefit system, only to have their calls dropped. Pregnant women on Mo Health Net have gone months without prenatal care because they are unable to reach Mo Health Net to inform them of their pregnancies. SNAP and Mo Health Net regularly lose documents of Missourians attempting to prove their eligibility for benefits. Missouri is not currently a pro-life, pro-child, or pro-family state. We could be. But that would require financial commitment and more responsible stewardship of our tax dollars. I urge this body not to make the desperate situation for low-income women and children in Missouri worse by further reducing revenue by sending tax credits to these crisis pregnancy centers. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I could tell that was full of a lot of emotion, and I know it takes a lot of courage to get up there and speak about something you're passionate about. Are there any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else to testify in support of the legislation?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Zach Wilson. I am the Chief Operating Officer at the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. I'm here on behalf of MOCADSV and our 100-member agencies in support of Senate Bill 1547. This bill really represents a meaningful investment, especially in our rural centers. Our rural domestic violence shelters right now are in a crisis state. We are in rural areas. They really face tougher economic times. They don't have the ability and the financial resources of private foundations, large corporations, and the ability for large fundraising efforts. It's felt very directly on our rural providers, especially in workforce retention and personnel. We really feel that these increased tax credit incentives not only increase that charitable giving, but also provide the opportunity for critical matching funds for federal grants like VOCA and FIPSA. And this allows for a greater workforce retention as a whole. So looking at raising these taxpayer limits, looking at this legislation is really a way to unlock these additional resources for our services across the state. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Senator Lewis?
Thank you for being here. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
And I just don't know, I understand this is focused on rural, but I'm just trying to figure out a path for the domestic violence shelters to receive equitable, benefits the same as the rural, because we're not swimming in dollars in the urban area
Correct.
either.
No.
So,
We'd be 100% supportive of increasing all of the tax credits to 100%. But with where the legislation currently stands, we really wanted to make sure that we're in support because it is our rural programs right now that are struggling. I know we identified some of the southern counties in our state, but the northern section of our state is almost becoming a service desert when it comes to domestic violence and rape crisis centers. But yes, we would be fully supportive of all of the DV and rape crisis tax credits being 100%.
thank you.
No further questions. Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else here to testify in opposition? Just a show of hands, who here still intends to testify? Just one. All right.
Mr. Chair, committee members, Doug Mann with Planned Parenthood Great Rivers Action here in unfortunate opposition to this bill. I say unfortunate because we are in line with the sponsor, I believe, on the domestic violence and diaper bank tax credits. We are in favor of programs that are evidence-based and support communities across our state. That is why we are in opposition to the unregulated pregnancy center portion of this bill. I believe the people that went before me did a great job of explaining the problems with these centers, their unregulated nature, and the fact that they are propagating false and misleading information. So our ask to the committee is to strip that portion from the bill and then potentially move it forward. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. So I believe the domestic violence shelters aren't officially licensed or anything. So would you be also looking to have that piece removed, or only just the pregnancy resource?
Just the pregnancy resource centers. The domestic violence shelters aren't propagating false and misleading information to their clients. So,
okay. Well, if you have evidence of that and like to share with the rest of the committee,
I can definitely send some studies to the committee if you would like, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else to testify in support? Opposition?
Hello, thank you, committee chair. Members of the committee, my name is Maggie Olivia. I am here on behalf of Abortion Action Missouri in opposition to that same so-called crisis pregnancy center provision of this bill.
As has been stated before me, pregnant and parenting folks in Missouri deserve support and resources, but that crisis pregnancy center language in of itself is another sneaky mechanism to fund inherently political anti-abortion organizations who operate without transparency. This bill also increases the tax credit to 2 additional programs that do serve the needs of pregnant Missourians and their families and have been proven to. Diaper banks, domestic violence shelters, like time and time again, and studies show to be like critical intervention points for struggling women and families. On the contrary, all of the research about these unregulated pregnancy clinics says that they cause more risk than support to people suffering in crisis, people with complicated pregnancies. There's an example just this past week in Texas where a volunteer ultrasound technician, like was mentioned earlier, provided an ultrasound to a person who presented at one of these centers, was told everything looks great. Weeks later, it turns out that pregnancy was not normal. It was a really dangerous ectopic pregnancy. This woman, who was already a parent, was forced to rush into the emergency room and almost lost her life because a volunteer read her an ultrasound incorrectly at one of these centers. And that's really dangerous, especially in a state like Missouri, where, as we've noted, more than half of our counties are maternity care deserts. So if you get a false or a misleading ultrasound reading from a volunteer at an organization, and you live in one of those counties, you're less likely to be able to treat an emergency that could arise. Both diaper banks and domestic violence shelters, like I said, are proven support systems that aren't afraid to provide data on how their money is spent. I know it was stated earlier that at a fundraising banquet, you can hear some of these numbers, but those numbers are not required to be reported to the state. I think we all know that when people are fundraising, they fluff things up a little bit. I will also say that these pregnancy centers have no proven track record in improving infant and maternal health, which we know we have an abysmally low rate here in Missouri. But the leading professional organizations of women's healthcare providers all disapprove of these so-called pregnancy centers, and especially of their use of so-called keepsake ultrasound readings, those ultrasounds provided by volunteers rather than by medical professionals. That list of professional organizations that does not support funding these pregnancy centers includes the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the American Institute of Ultrasound and Medicine, the American Public Health Association, National Association of Nurse Practitioners and Women's Health, National Coalition of STD Directors, National Partnership for Women and Families, North American Society for Pediatric and Adolescent Gynecology, Society for Adolescent Health and Medicine, and the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine. These are the experts that we should be looking to when it comes to addressing the really dangerous rates of infant and maternal health in our state. So like those who spoke before me, I am asking committee to either strike that language that furthers this tax credit for these so-called pregnancy centers that are unregulated, or, if nothing else, require them to report back to the state how our tax dollars are being spent. How much is being spent on services, how much is being spent on staff, how much is being spent on advertising. For example, one of these qualifying health centers, or one of these qualifying centers, reported that they spent millions of dollars in '24 campaigning against the abortion rights constitutional amendment. I would love to see a breakdown and make sure that none of Missouri tax dollars that were intended to support families were being spent for political reasons. I'll also note that these centers over the past 3 years under the current tax credit program that we are operating under have maxed out every single year. I would expect that to be the case again if this tax credit were to be increased. So that means the money that the state is on the hook for to pay out for these credits is going to be drastically overinflated for these clinics. If you go to the DHS website, currently the number of diaper banks that qualify for this program in our state is 9. The number of domestic violence shelters that qualify is 53. And the number of these unregulated pregnancy centers is 83. So they will be taking up the majority of that money that the state would be on the hook for to pay back out. And I think that money should be better spent on opening health clinics, for example, in these maternity health care deserts. Sorry, that was fast. I was trying to shorten down my thing. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Just out of curiosity, you cited that example in Texas. Do you know, was that by a licensed professional?
Texas also does not require licensed professionals at these facilities, so I'm not sure.
Okay. So, from my understanding from the earlier testimony, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the argument was that the facility is not licensed, but then we had testimony saying that was coming in and doing the procedures are licensed, even if they could be in a volunteer capacity. Do you
I've heard some examples of that. I would love to see that in writing as a requirement. I think especially when folks present to a center that looks like it's a doctor's office, they're assuming that everyone in there is a medical professional and licensed and deserve to know at least the status of anybody's license inside those facilities.
And do you know if there have been any similar examples of things like that have happened here in Missouri?
The cases that I know of are not, like, people don't want to talk about them publicly because they're personal, but there was another recent incident in Kentucky in the last year, I believe, where they also don't require medical professionals in these clinics, and it was a pregnancy center that was actually linked by the local health department to be like the originator of an HPV outbreak because they were found to not be properly cleaning their transvaginal ultrasound machine, which is the type of ultrasound that is used often in like really early pregnancy detection, which is what these centers claim to offer.
And you said that was Kentucky?
That case was in Kentucky, yes.
Oh, thank you for your testimony. Any further questions, Senator Lewis?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, I think it will be really beneficial to have some follow-up statistics on, some information. I think just point of clarity, the pregnancy resource centers aren't medically licensed here in the state of Missouri.
Correct.
However, I think of like a consumer protection. Mm-hmm. If a woman went there and sees someone in scrubs and an ultrasound machine,
right?
You're like you said that example. You think you're getting the proper ultrasound, but if you go to a licensed clinic, you know that ultrasound is going to the OBGYN,
exactly.
A board-certified radiologist
mm-hmm.
who will officially read the study. There's no requirement, and I don't think a person would know to even know. Like,
right.
When you get your mammogram, you see your technician, you don't know that there's a board-certified radiologist. It's the physician you never meet that's doing the reading of your report. So I think of it as a consumer protection. You see someone in scrubs, you think the whole process is happening, but the concern is not, because they are not medically licensed here in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever walked into a doctor's office and asked if they were licensed. I just assume so. I'll also say on that note, I think there was a question earlier about the licensing of domestic violence shelters, and like the people who are working in shelters who are doing like client-facing services are licensed, not medical licenses because they're not providing medical treatment. They're often like social workers, and they do have to abide by regulations from the state.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else in support? Last call. Anyone in opposition? Informational purposes only. Senator, do you have any closing remarks? All right. Well, that concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 1547. With no further business coming before the committee, I now make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. We are adjourned.